Good morning, everyone. The church's year is moving forward, and as you can see from the veiled cross behind me, our Lenten season has entered its last phase, Passion Time, and I've just finished celebrating Mass here for all the people of the parish, and thinking of you all very much in my prayers today. I've commended you to God and to his safekeeping. The Gospel that the Church gives us for this Passion Sunday, as it used to be called, is the story, the famous story, of the raising from the dead of Lazarus, the friend of Jesus. It's a wonderful story that we're familiar with because it's often read at funerals, I think. The background to the story is that Lazarus was sick, and his sisters were worried about him, and so they sent word to Jesus that his friend was sickening. Jesus was not nearby, but even so, he could have put a spurt on and got there to be with his friend during his illness, but he didn't. It's a curious thing. Jesus, in fact, delayed a couple of days before he set off to Bethany, the village where Lazarus lived with his two sisters, Martha and Mary. When he got there, by the time he got there, Lazarus had in fact died and been buried for 4 days, so a week delayed actually. We have a wonderful little insight into the way that human beings react. We're told that Martha went up to Jesus and she sort of remonstrated with him. She said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." I suppose in a way she's saying, where were you when we needed you? Why weren't you here for us when we sent for you and when we were desperately in need? Mary is even worse in a way, because she doesn't even bother coming out of the house to see Jesus. Mary, who was so close to our Lord, she sits in a kind of sulk in the house. We also hear from the voices of the other mourners who are there, and they say, well, you know, it's all very well Jesus being sad at this man's death, but this is Jesus who could cure the blind man. Couldn't he have stopped this happening? The thing I like about those voices is that in many ways they speak for all of us when things happen that we can't understand or that we find hard to bear. We're inclined to say, why does God let these things come to pass? Perhaps some of us are thinking that at the moment with the coronavirus and the troubles that we're going through. Why does God allow this? Of course, the story doesn't end there. Our Lord didn't go there when Lazarus was sick for a purpose. Our Lord stayed away so that he could perform a greater miracle. And the miracle is, of course, that despite their objections, he gets people to open the tomb and to stand back. And Jesus shouts out the name of Lazarus and he raises Lazarus from the dead. Lazarus comes out of the tomb alive again. How much more wonderful was the raising of Lazarus from the dead than a simple cure of a sick man? Our Lord was saving a better miracle for Martha and Mary and those who were with them. We might think the story ended there, but for us, of course, it doesn't, because we can hardly hear the story of the raising of Lazarus without thinking of a bigger miracle still. There are little hints of it in the Gospel. First of all, we're told that Lazarus was buried in a stone-cut tomb with a rock that closed the opening. And when we hear those words, don't we think automatically of that other stone-cut tomb with a rock to close the opening where Jesus himself would one day be buried. And we're told that when Lazarus comes out of that tomb, raised from the dead by Jesus Christ, he's still wrapped in his grave bands, and he has the cloth around his face which was put there to cover his head. It must have been a rather macabre sight. But of course, we think, don't we, of how on Easter Sunday morning, St. Peter and St. John ran to the tomb of our Lord, and they looked inside and they saw his shroud rolled up, and they saw the cloth that was over his face in a place by itself. We're bound to think of that day. What's the message for us in all this, actually? It's that God has not finished his miracles in raising Lazarus from the dead, but in fact he has an even greater miracle still to come. The two sisters wanted the curing of their brother, and they got instead his raising to life. But what we are promised is the resurrection of Jesus Christ and eternal life for all of us. So, taken all together, I think what we can take from today's Gospel, and it's a very encouraging thought, is that although sometimes when we ask God for particular favours, his favours may seem to be slow in coming, nevertheless, he's got wonderful things in store for us, things beyond all our imaginings. And the reason we know that is because his love for us is far beyond our wildest dreams. Thank you very much, and God bless you.